What is a smart investment?
Traditionally, everyone thinks property investment is a good mode of investment, which is true. So a lot of people do is you go and buy a property somewhere and then wait till that price goes up in that property which you purchase. So what we are talking about something more to that. We identify high growth locations in Victoria and Australia based on the large government funded projects. So the projects that are over a couple of $1 billion, $2-3 billion invested by the government. So those area property market will go up. Projects we are doing is to go to these areas before these large projects finish and lock it in at the today's market price, not investing the entire amount. So for example, if you are buying a $600,000 property, you only pay 5% of that property to block it in, block the land price and the bill price and both, and then you can wait for a 1 year, 1.5 year, depending on the settlement dates, and still have a contract which is at the today's price. So then by the time you're settling, your market price has gone up due to the price property. You still have a 1 year old, one or maybe 1.5 year old price on your property. So you have instant equity in that. But to get that instant equity, you actually spend 5% of the property, not the full amount. So the return on investment is much higher on those type of property investment modes. So then you settle the land and build the.
So that is exactly what you mean by a smart investment.
This is exactly what I mean by smart investment, because you are not utilizing the entire investment at the beginning, at one go.
Welcome everyone, you're watching Conversations with Alanki. The focus of today's program would be on smart investments. As the world is faced with a global recession, economies are impacted and many are finding it challenging. It is time to think anew. It is time to think of new and innovative ways of investing. So that's exactly where we will be talking about smart investments. So to find out more about all of this, I will be in conversation with the Group Chairman of SA Thomson Neris, Mr. Sanjika Abeyratna. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having this conversation. I do think you can shed a lot of light on this topic. So as we begin this, the first thing I'd like to know is, can anyone buy a property in Australia? And when I say anyone, I'm referring to a foreigner who wishes to invest in property in Australia.
Yes, Alanki, if anyone thinking of investing in Australia to buy a property, yes, non-residents can buy a property in Australia, but you have to get the government approval for that. So non-residents, if you don't have a PR or citizen planning to buy a property in Australia, you have to apply for that. We call FIRB approval, which is Foreign Investment Review Board approval. Once you have that approval, yes, you can buy it. But there are some limitations in that approval where non-residents can only buy brand new property. So you must be the fresh title owner, first owner of the property. So you can either buy a land and build a brand new house, or buy a brand new apartment or townhouses, but not establish pre-owned properties. That is the guideline, but within that guidelines, anyone can invest on properties in Australia.
And obviously there would be a long procedure, right? I mean, there would be a procedure that you have to follow.
There's a procedure in the sense that you first reserve the location and the address, the property. So once you sign the contract of sale, so you need to submit that contract of sale to the FIRB approval process. So our lawyers will do that for any investors coming to that, and then government will go through the process, and normally within 2 to 3 weeks time you should see the results of that application process, which is normally segmented in up to $1 million. You have to pay about 14,100, second 1 million, other 14,100, like that. It goes up depending on the price of the property. So the approval is valid per property, not per person. So if you are planning to buy 2 properties, you have to obtain 2 approvals. Like that it goes on. So the process is there, but it takes about up to 2 to 3 weeks.
Right.
You should see results from the Australian government giving the approval for you to buy a property as a foreigner.
Right. But what's important is that, like you mentioned to me once, that your company guides your clients on how to invest and manage a property and the legal services required and so on, because this is all very new to a foreigner.
Yes. When a foreigner goes to Australia to buy a property, yes, there are so many other services related to buying a property. It's not just buying a property.
Right.
So you need to select the right location. If it is an investment, whether that is the right high growth potential location or not is a question mark for a lot of people. So we need to have a lot of research and development to understand why and how this area is going to be growing in the next near future. So we do have that knowledge, and our research and development teams process will guide you through those high growth development processes. And then the next thing is right developer, finding the right developer and builder. So there are so many uncertainties in this current market conditions. Even reputed builders gone onto the administration and bankruptcy. So we need to make sure that we are going ahead with the right builders and safeguarding your investment. There are processes to follow in that as well. And then during the construction period, we need to make sure the quality assurance of the process, making sure that you are getting the same quality as per the specs. So we do the quality assurance and observation process during the construction, and then end of the construction takeover process, and then putting into the management, property management, finding right tenants for your property. So that whole services will be provided. And also buying a property, you need legal services, conveyancing part to be carried out. So that is also under our company we offer. So we call it as a one-stop shop service, where all the services in buying a property in Australia, investing in property, we do offer, will be provided. So you don't have to go around and try to find the services to support your property investment in Australia.
And before we continue with this topic, what is a smart investment? Could you elaborate on it?
So, Alanki, this is a good question, because traditionally everyone thinks the property investment is a good mode of investment, which is true. So a lot of people do is go and buy a property somewhere and then wait till that price goes up in that property which you purchased. So what we are talking about, something more to that. What we are looking at is we identify high growth locations in Victoria and Australia based on the large government funded projects. So the projects that are over a couple of $1 billion, $2-3 billion, invested by the government. So those area property market will go up those projects when those projects finish.
Because you're saying there's room to grow.
Yes, there's a room to grow. So what we are doing is to go to these areas before these large projects finish and lock it in at the today's market price, not investing the entire amount. So for example, if you are buying a $600,000 property, you only pay 5% of that property to block it in, block the land price and the bill price and both. And then you can wait for a 1 year, 1.5 year, depending on the settlement dates. And then by the time you're settling into the future, you still have a contract which is at the today's price. So then by the time you're settling, your market price has gone up due to the price goes, the land price has gone up, bill price has gone up, material price has gone up. So at the time you're settling the property, you still have a 1 year old, one or maybe 1.5 year old price on your property. So you have instant equity in that. But to get that instant equity, you actually spend 5% of the property, not the full amount. So the return on investment is much higher on those type of property investment mode. So then you settle the land and build the house within another 6 to 8 months. So we have customers maybe selling while the construction is going on, maybe sell at straight after the construction with your markups, or you rent it out and keep it for a period of time, so the price will further go up. So that is a sort of a smart investment strategy. But the key point for that is to make sure that you go to the right location. So the key is to go to the right location, because if you go to already developed area where the price has already gone up, so the room to growth is less. So we are trying to go to growing areas where we can have the maximum returns for our investments.
So you discover properties which actually have potential and grow, so that when you actually do sell, you make a profit.
Exactly. I'll give you an example, Alanki, because that will help a lot of people to understand. Now, if you look at Melbourne, the one of the high growth potential area we have identified is called Truganina, which is currently 30 minutes, approximately 30 minutes travel time to Melbourne city, to that area in the western suburbs. But the Victoria's currently largest construction project is going on now, which is $6.5 billion tunnel development project, building a tunnel under the Westgate Bridge. So it is scheduled to be open in Q2 2025. So once the tunnel open, which connects the western suburbs to the CBD, Melbourne CBD, the travel time to western suburbs will cut down 15 to 20 minutes. So all of a sudden, 30 minutes travel time will come down to 10 to 15 minutes. So that is a recipe to go up in price on property on that area. So what we are trying to do is we lock it in the price at today's price. So when this big development finish and realize the returns due to those big developments, then you can enjoy the returns
As
straight
the
after
land
that.
value will be much higher.
Land value will be much higher, because if you look at a property which is 10 to 15 minutes travel distance within Melbourne CBD now, easily over $1 million. Now we can secure this type of developments at today's price by looking at 5%, and then you have enough time to get ready for funds to settle the land as well. So we are depending on your cash flow, we can adjust the settlement times, whether it's 6 months or 1 year, 1.5 years. So not more than 1.5 years, because the builders won't give a fixed price if it's too long, but ideally 1 year.
Right. So that is exactly what you mean by a smart
This
investment.
is exactly what I mean by smart investment, because you are not utilizing your entire investment at the beginning, at one go.
Moving on to the next question, there are many reasons as to why a Sri Lankan may want to invest in property in Australia. And one interesting point was where you said it could be as a pure investment. And secondly, it can also be ideal for parents who wish to send their kids to Australia to pursue their higher education. Could you tell us more about this?
Yes, so that's a very good question, Alanki. Now, there's a lot of parents here wanting their children to go abroad and do their higher studies. So Australia has become one of the key destinations for that. So a lot of people go there study. So either you have to rent a place if your children go into university, or you have to get a uni accommodation. Any of these will be now, because of the current market conditions, interest rates gone up, so the number of properties coming to market as a rental properties come down. Therefore rental demand has gone up, so you have to pay high rent for anyone going to Australia at the moment. For example, 2 bedroom apartment in the city easily would cost you close to $3,000. So that is actually somebody else's mortgage you're paying. So if you can make that payment coming towards yourself, it's a sort of a smart investment. So if you're planning your children going there and renting, and if you have the capacity, it's worthwhile getting an apartment closer to a university and then pay that amount which you are otherwise paying somebody else's mortgage to yourself. So if you did that for 3 to 4 years of your education period of your children, that is easily saving over $100,000 on your accommodation cost. And there's another way of looking at it. There's some people plan ahead. So if you are thinking of sending your children in 5 years down the track, maybe we can invest now in a house and land, which is very high growth potential. Complete a cycle, block it at a 5%. We have enough time to send the money and settle the land and build the house, and then sell at the with the markups, and use the equity and the returns towards your children's education if you have enough time in between. So we can do a 1 or 2 cycles of house and land construction and selling before your children goes there, so then you can get ready with your funds for the children's education. So we can do both ways, so to make sure that children's education is covered out of the property investment.
And if parents are interested to send their kids to university in Australia by way of a smart investment, how can you assist? I mean, what part can you play and guide
I think
them?
if your children going to university, if you know which university they are going to, then it's easy to try and understand apartments or townhouses closer to that university. So then you can rent it out until your child goes there. So then after that, they can utilize it. If you're not sure about that, if it is too early, my advice is to go for house and land packages, because houses have a highest capital growth. In Australia, capital growth wise, always houses got the highest capital growth, but apartments, not the capital growth, but the rental yield. So if you have more time, not sure which universities that are going to, then we can go on a house and land package on a high growth area where you complete a cycle of build and sell and encash the returns. So that return can then be used to your children's education or finding a rental accommodation or paying for your children's university accommodation through that investment. So there we have a lot of parents who actually earn the children's university education before by doing the property investment in this growing area. So that way, which is a very big benefit for their cash flow in terms of sending children for foreign education.
And also, I think nowadays, given that there's a global recession which has impacted many economies, and people are finding it challenging, people actually think twice before they actually invest in property. Um, what are your views? How are like what would you say to anyone who wishes to invest property in Australia? Is it a good time to invest in Australia?
Yes, now, Alanki, now Australia also, Australia is the first country in the world who came out of the recession after the COVID situation. So that shows how strong is the Australian economy. Still, it's a AAA rated economy, but like everyone else in the world, we are also slow down in the economy. Now, there's a saying, when the economy having issues and struggling, financial crisis, that is a playground for investors, because you will get a lot of bargains, you will get a lot of opportunities to make money, because if you have the capacity of spending, because a lot of people don't have that luxury. So that is exactly happening in Australia as well. Now the interest rates gone up. Now if you look at the Reserve Bank of Australia this month, the inflation figure, the CPI, consumer price index, has come up to 5.4%. So based on that, the Reserve Bank has increased the interest rates in the bank borrowing. So therefore, many people couldn't afford to borrow from banks and repay. So therefore, a lot of people are not buying investment properties with the bank funding. So therefore, cash buyers have the opportunity. If you are thinking of investing in this market, because of the less number of properties are selling, the land developers, builders, they all reduce their markups to increase the number of sales. So this is a rock bottom pricing available now. So then you can secure. That's why our smart investment strategy, which is blocking with a 5% and settling in a 1 year down the track, also very attractive, because we are looking at a today's price, but we are not planning to borrow any money for another 1 year. So we with the current CPI inflation figure is going up in Australia. Now we had the the, the highest inflation rate was 1975, which was 17.7%, and that was we call Great Depression period. And after that, the highest it went up to in 2008, we had about 5%, and then in December 2022, it went up to 7.8% after the COVID. So at that point, government started increasing the bank interest rates to control the inflation. So now it has started to come down. If anyone goes to a Reserve Bank of Australia website, main page, inflation, you will see it has gone up 2022 December, and now it has started to come down. So at the rate of it has coming down, maybe mid or end of next year, we could see interest rates start to come down. The minute interest rates start to come down, the property price is going to go up. That is the nature. So until, if you, we should not wait until the property prices start to come down, interest rates start to come down, because that at that point property price is going to go up, because the minute the borrowing capacity goes up, the developers, the builders, everybody is going to increase the price, because the demand is going to go up. So before the demand increase, we are telling our investors to block it now. So that way you are blocking at the lowest price point. This is the cycle where, economic cycle, it goes up and down. Then we are at the bottom, the ideal place for investors to come on board and block it if you do have the capacity. Now, in an economy, now in Australian economy, that CPI figure, the consumer price index, should come in between 2 to 3% to see some rate cuts. And with the current rate we are going ahead, we could anticipate to see that happening possibly mid or latter part of next year. So at that point, property price was going to go up, and then before that, it's better to lock it in.
All right, so that's an interesting view because you say it's a good time to invest in property when there's actually an economic crisis because that's when property prices would actually be affordable.
It's a good time if you're not borrowing.
Okay.
So because we are not advising anyone to borrow in Australia or here with the high interest rates, because then the whole purpose will go down. But if you do have the cash capacity to lock it in, so for example, if you are trying to buy a $600,000 house, we're not going to need the entire funds now. We only need 5% for that, and then we can wait till the market condition where we can go for a longer settling option. With that timeline, we could see somewhere later next year it'll start to come down, so then the price will go up, but then you have the luxury of looking at a today's rock bottom price. That is how you should manage it. So not to spend in the entire amount of your investment, but by putting 5%, you're looking at a today's price.
All right, so my next question is what differentiates SA Thompson Neris from other real estate advisory firms?
Yes, that's a very good question. I like to elaborate more, because in Australia, you will see a lot of real estate companies. So if you go to any real estate company, say that I want to do an investment, I want to buy an investment property, they will tell you, okay, whatever they have listed within their locality, because the real estate companies are operated within their local territories. But with us, we operate in Australia, across Australia. And if somebody wants an investment property, we do identify where the high growth potential locations, where the areas the government spending a lot of infrastructure projects, where the areas all the migrant skill and business people moving into, where they need the housing. So we analyze all of these factors and tell go and invest on these areas and buy, because we do have access to all these areas, rather than telling somebody to buy something listed in our local locality. We do that side, that is we call local sales division, which somebody wants to go and live in your area where children or your friends or your child's schools located, then we do have that option, but that is a different requirement than the pure investment. So what our differentiate is to advise on the right locations to go and get the maximum returns on your property investment, because we work as a purely and mainly property investment advisory service rather than just selling houses. So it's more than being a real estate and selling a house than advising you on the right property investment locations and products.
So what I gather is it's not just about investing in property, but you guide your clients through the whole process.
Exactly, because we have a what we say is once become a client, it's always it's always a client, because we do take care of that investment every step of the way, from initial step where you locate in, and then you build a house, rent, and then you sell, then you can reinvest, we can refinance, we can create portfolios. It's not a journey of just selling one house with us. We just a lot of our clients just join with us and become good friends, and we continue this journey, and we advise at the right time to sell, right time to buy. And property management side of the investment is the commercial, because we do have a commercial division, which I will explain later. So on that whole process, we do take care of every step of the property investment journey.
And now I do want to touch upon what you just mentioned. How do you help the corporate sector in diversifying businesses into the Australian market?
Yes, we do have a separate division called SA Thompson Consulting, which is purely focusing on corporate and commercial markets, helping diversify businesses into Australian market. So if you are planning or thinking of expanding your business into Australia to capture the Australian markets, we do have a service where we act on behalf of them to help diversify your businesses into Australia. So which is very case by case scenario, depending on your product, what you want to do. So we have Australian consultants working with us. We sit down, understand what the market you want to get into, and then what best way we can penetrate into the Australian market. There are a lot of barriers if a Sri Lankan company is trying to diversify into Australian market. So we help our Sri Lankan companies to help diversify into Australian market. So that's our corporate commercial consulting division does, and products and services offering into Australian markets.
All right. And before we move on to the final question, are you present only in Sri Lanka?
No, we are operating in a couple of locations. So we recently started in Singapore, selling Australian properties and investments in Singapore, and we do operate in Dubai at the moment. And early next year, we are planning to open up in our Vietnam office. So we Sri Lanka, Australia, Dubai, Singapore, and Vietnam is our market.
What would you like to say to those watching this video, this conversation, to the audience? I mean, there's obviously a part of an audience watching who actually might want to migrate to Australia or invest in property. What would your advice be?
I think plan ahead.
Plan ahead.
Plan ahead is the main thing, and also the requirements are changing from person to person. So we would like to see and sit down personally how to tailor this property investment model works for your personal requirements. But the key thing is to identify the high growth areas to invest in property. And even some people invest in property houses because you get high returns, capital growth, and then use that funds to pay for apartment renting for your children's accommodation closer to universities. Or you buy apartment, so then you don't have to pay rent. But the thing is, we need to plan ahead. We need to know where they are planning to go. But the safe first way is to go to high growth potential investment and do a couple of cycles and get ready with the funds when their children goes to universities, etc., or migrating. So we can expand and explain with all the options and the locations, why these locations are growth potential and what are the attractions of universities nearby and all these, etc. So I think if they come and talk to us, we can sit down and have a personalized discussion on how to tailor-make this.
All right. Thank you for shedding light on this topic. But finally, how can anyone reach out to you if they want to get more information?
Actually, Alanki, now the Colombo office, we call it our customer hub. So we are maintaining this like a display house of Australian properties. So anyone can come and explore what options, all the options we have, and then get the personal details. So do come to our office at Dharma Palma, the Colombo 7, and address is in our website, and you can call our local number, or anyone visiting Australia, Melbourne, we have offices in Melbourne, to come and visit us, so then we can go and take them to show these locations and actually see why these are growth potential and what are these big projects we are talking about. You can see that and realize the potential of the growth on those areas. So if you do visit to Melbourne, give us a call. All the contact details are in our website, sathompson.com.au, and then contact us, and then we will take care of the rest.
All right. For those who wish to contact them for further information, you can always refer the website which is on the screen. So that's how you contact them to get further information. I would like to thank you, Ms. Abhiratna, for shedding light on this topic, as many are not aware of the available options if they wish to migrate to Australia or if they wish to invest in property in Australia. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was nice having this conversation with you. So I've come to the end of another conversation. I'll be back with another one. Until then, stay safe and take care.